Hi there, so today I'm going to show you how to ink a drawing using different methods. This is something that I've shown you in previous videos, but I haven't really explained exactly how you ink a drawing with different sort of materials. Here is just a selection of ink pens and things which we're going to use just for my inking process, but yeah, hopefully you'll probably find this useful. So what we have is obviously a paintbrush there, size 3, but you can use any size really. That's just to lay in a lot of larger areas of the black, and I use the drawing ink to do that. That's why I've got that drawing ink. I prefer to use waterproof drawing ink. This is a real cheap one and it isn't exactly waterproof, but it'll do for our inking purposes. I've got like a dip pen. This is a Takikawa T25, which I've used in a previous video. This is for fine lines, this one. You know, like fine detail and different textures that you want to get, you know, with them. But you can use either that, you know, with the drawing ink, or you can just use these real fine line sort of ink pens. It's entirely up to you what you've got and what you want to use really, but I'll use a combination of all these. I've got like a thicker Sharpie marker, that's to do like thicker lines obviously, and you know, fill in any other larger areas. And I've got like a Jelly Roll Sakura white pen, which is to do any highlights, because once you've found, when you've inked a drawing, you might find that adding extra highlights will add something more to your drawing, and sort of like erase little bits that you don't want dark on it as well. So I just use that, and just a pot of water and some tissue just to, you know, wash your brush or your dip pen. Yeah, so I've pre-drawn a drawing, so I'll show you what we're going to ink and then we'll get to it. So this is a skull drawing obviously, which I sketched in with a 6B Mars Staedtler Lumograph pencil. It's a bit dark really, so I just like sort of like sketched it in quite lightly, because I didn't want to, you know, like make some really solid marks on the page, because when it comes to erase it all, I don't want it to just have pencil marks still appearing, you know, because I should use like a lighter pencil. But so as you can see, the skull, I've pretty much sketched where all the light and dark areas are going to be and all the detail and things. But when starting, I've sort of like got to decide whether the background's going to be black or anything. But on this occasion, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wink exactly what I've drawn, just to show you some techniques and things like that. To start off with, I would always get a paintbrush and maybe go for the darker areas, which are the eyes, the nose socket there, maybe some dark bits there under the cheekbones, and maybe some like thick solid lines which will be under the horns and under the helmet there, just to give it some weight to the drawing. And then from there I'd use maybe like a Sharpie marker, because I'd have a bit more control over some more thicker areas that I can add as I go along. And then it'll be like thinner ink pens, any ones of these, and then I think the wood texture I'll be doing with that dip pen, which is nice. It's got a good sort of point to it, which will do these individual wood grain things on these like spear things. And then any highlights at the end, and maybe any other dark splatters I could add at the end. But we'll see to that as we go along. So right now I need to add these darker areas. Get some water there, just wet it slightly. Make sure the tissue's on hand there. remove that water because I don't want to knock that water over. So I always go for the eye sockets, especially when it's these skulls. Get quite a lot of darkness. Try and follow some of the pencil lines that I've already done. We do it darker at the top and then it tapers out a bit more as it goes to the bottom there, and I do the same for the other eye socket. It's just getting used to using a paintbrush. Sometimes they can be a bit fiddly. Got like basic eyes there. Maybe try and look at them just to, like, you know, match them up and things like that. I find using a paintbrush, it's a lot better to do thicker lines and then do like thin lines at the same time. So I'll add some dark colour, or dark bit on the nose socket there. I don't want to do it all totally black because we can work that up in with other ink pens and things like that, and just work in some thin lines and thick lines which help just you know, the depth of the drawing. Do a couple of thin lines there. As I said, I wanted to do like thick lines underneath the horns there. Do the same on the other side. And they're like broken horns anyway, so you can sort of add more ink pens to that and detailing as you go along. And this, as you notice, this helmet's like a battle damaged helmet, so it doesn't have to be like exactly straight lines, it could all be quite damaged anyway, so you can do them in like wobbly lines, doesn't really matter for this drawing. And there could be like little breaks there which you can just mark out what you're going to do later with ink pens. Under here there's all this, I want all this black stuff just dribbling out, which will symbolise the blood, but I'm not going to do any colouring because this is just inking. And you can really not be accurate at this bit, it just be as loose as you want. Always important to wash your brush out thoroughly and give it a, you know, wipe with the tissue, because it all builds up within you know, the metal bit on there. I forgot what they call it. No precise terms, but it all builds up in there, and it's best just to try and get all out of there as best you can. Now I've finished the brush part for now. I may return to it, may want to add some more little bits later on, but it's a process inking and you've got to try and use a few different materials just to try and get different line weights and effects. I mean, on this one, this drawing, there isn't really lots of different textures, there's no like hair or fur or anything like that, but you can try and add loads of shading effects, which I'm going to try and show you now with these ink pens and maybe the dip pen later on as well. Right, so I've zoomed in a bit closer now, so I can show you some inking detail that I usually do. You'll see that the pencil marks that I've drawn, they've just been drawn loosely. Obviously I've got an idea how I'm gonna, lay in these extra ink marks with an ink pen. But if you need more planning, then I'd plan that out in the drawing. I just like to leave it quite loose, and then I can just add more to it and just go with the flow of the drawing, is what I usually do anyway. So I've got an O2 Unipin fine liner. That's usually the one I'll usually work with, or an O3, I'll start by inking the outline of the teeth. I'll give them some broken teeth ends there and cracks and stuff. Obviously there would have been another molar tooth either side there, but I'm sort of like thinking these spears maybe have been jabbed into the head and maybe knocked them out, so that's why there's only like one tooth there, and then all this is going to be all like cracks and detail on the skull there. Just try and go with the flow of the drawing. So I'm just adding thin lines for now, but I'm sort of like working out how I'm going to add shadow and like some hatching, which will be just lines, which to show you almost like a grey. It'll look like a grey colour, not totally black, and it'll be just to show like shadow, mainly under the eyes, around the cheekbones, and under anywhere that's going to cast a shadow, which will probably be the helmet slightly. Yeah, so I'll just work on adding some more lines. I want there to be lots more cracks on this, especially on just where the cheekbones are there. Usually the more detail you add, the better it could be, as long as you don't add too much. But what's never too much, sometimes I just get carried away. But you may know when to stop inking. I always try and thicken the top part as well of the teeth, because it makes the teeth more sort of like deeply rooted into the skull. I usually do that on zombies and other drawings, but it just looks better if you do that. So yeah, we're basically just drawing like the lines now, trying to finalise everything just on this skull section. That's all I'm bothered about at the moment. Often when I'm drawing I would, go from different parts to different parts, but I want to try and focus on, one part for now and then go to the next. But normally I would be zipping here and there and everywhere, doing different things all at once, but I won't be doing that, not on this drawing. So I'll start to do some hatching now. Try and work out which areas need to be a bit darker. It's usually around these areas on the cheekbones. And then I do under the eyes, but I need to just sort of where that finishing line's going to be for that helmet. And now I can add some crosshatch lines. But the more you go along, you're gonna go over some of these lines. You know, you're gonna add more hatching, cross hatching, and other details, because it's about layering your drawing with lots of different techniques. And maybe some cross hatching at the sides here, and from the top of the helmet. Like I said, there'll be some shadow there, so you want to try and get all this in shadow. So we are building up the drawing how we want it, really, with these ink pens and different inking techniques. Later on I will be maybe showing you how to use this drawing pen, dip pen I mean, which can be tricky to use, but it's good. It's a good tool to use. By the way, there's a dry brushing technique which I wanted to show you on the helmet. Now the dry brushing technique requires you to have a paintbrush, obviously. Now you need to put some paint on the brush, and you need to wipe most of it off, but leaving some on. So I think what you do is, just so you got some on there, there will be some on there, so, and then you got to scumble exactly what you want. That's not dry enough, so I'll try a bit more. Still not dry enough, so you get a bit more off. That's a bit better. So this is like a battle damaged helmet. I just want to try and add a load of scuff marks. This is a really knackered looking helmet, and that's what I want to get across. I've sort of like left the pencil marks of all the like scratches and like sword blows or whatever, you know, on there, and there's going to be some cracks from them spears at the top. But scumbling with a paintbrush is a good technique. Dry brushing, it's something that I don't use much of, but I can try and do more of that, you know, in this inking process. Obviously you've got to wash the brush out a bit more, but then when you come to add other like ink pen lines here and there, it'll all come together as one nice looking effect. So we'll get on with that. So now I want to take the drawing ink and try and just to utilise this dip pen. All you do is you just obviously dip it in into the ink, and so you've got a piece on the end which it'll just flow through. Sometimes you may have to put a little bit of water on it, but usually these are okay. And then we just add It's a really thin line, this one. You can get different sort of nib widths and, you know, sizes, so, but I always think it's a good idea to use different sorts of ink pens, dip pens, paintbrushes, different techniques. It really creates an interesting drawing. And then when it runs out, obviously you've got to dip some more, but you might have to add a bit of water. And you can add some interesting techniques, but I can pretty much use thin ink pens for that. You know, using like a dip pen requires a lot more patience, I'd say, than using ink pens. But I just thought I'd want to show you that I need to get more different sizes and things like that, just to try and do some dip pen techniques for the future. Let's bring in a Sharpie marker now. I need to add like a thicker line underneath here on these wooden spear things, and try and add like a shadowed sort of line, so it'll help you later on when you're adding like thinner ink pens and stuff like that. And do the same on the other side. Doesn't have to be exactly straight. This is a piece of wood. And then we've got them like shadowed lines, which help it, you know, give them a bit of form to the spear ends, which have, you know, snapped off anyway. So, and I can take an ink pen, you know, to one and just go over some of the lines and just add more texture in between them other lines there. Maybe make a bit more shadow on it. And there's the top of the spear on that side, and then there's that side as well. Wobbly lines, wood textures. And there's like loads of shadowing at the top as well, because the skull's sort of putting it in shadow, so like that. So it's all like a process of different layers. That's it basically, the art of inking. So they're the basic methods. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to time lapse the rest of this, finish all this, and then show you the end result right at the end. So there's the finish. Basic inking techniques. What I'll do is do a second video where I do more advanced inking techniques with like inking fair and everything else and other little textures, which should be good. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers now.